What's up, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about how versatile jig heads can do a lot of different things really well for you. So my guy Dave over at EbbnFlow hit us up with some of these amazing jig heads that are going to change the way that you fish swim baits, but also they are very, very versatile, and there's a lot of different ways that you can fish these. So today we're going to talk about using them as Ned rig heads because they're designed to stand up on the bottom, and we're going to talk about how to use the skirted jig variety and do a whole bunch of different things. So we're going to dive into versatility today with the EbbnFlow jig head. Let's go. So the first thing that we want to understand about these jig heads that Dave designed is they're literally designed to keep soft plastics on the hook forever. Getting these things on and off the hook, man, trying to take a bait off of this thing is really hard. Some bluegill is not going to rip this bait off. It is going to save you hundreds of dollars in soft plastic cost. Now, on the other benefit, Dave designed these baits right here to stand up on the bottom like that, and you'll see that in today's video. The cool thing about it is we have literally skirted variety and we have plain variety. So I love a good swim jig bite. It's one of the best bites that you can get on all year if you can get on one. But the cool thing about these is, one, it's going to swim with that rocking motion, but two, when this bait is on the bottom, it's going to sit head pointing up, that hook exposed, that bait exposed. This is a perfect example of what you want a bait to do. So let's kind of go through the varieties of baits here that we have, and let's talk about where we're going to use them. First up here, we have this 3/8 ounce swim jig head with a nice PB&J color tide on it. It's got that Flashaboo in it, and then we have that paired with a Z-Man TRD. Now, if you know anything about the TRD bite, you know that pairing this with a jig head is going to upsize the fish that you catch. Now, why does it work that way? Number of reasons. One, that flared skirt on the bottom for some reason tends to generate a bigger bite from largemouths. But two, that TRD profile is scientifically proven to generate bites. So when you combine a finesse swim jig with the TRD on the bottom, you get an amazing picture. Now, the thing that I love about this jig is Dave added that Flashaboo in it to give it that extra pop. And this bait comes clean through everything. And the cool thing about it, there's no weed guard. A lot of times when I'm fishing docks or open areas with a swim jig, I don't need that weed guard. It gets in the way of hook sets. But if I'm gonna fish a Ned rig, I want that exposed hook to be there. This is a very clean and new way to present a TRD that bass don't see a lot. It's like a heavy TRD, right? With that skirt material flaring out on the bottom. Now, another bait that pairs well with this is that Crush City Craw. You've seen Caden crush them all year on the channel. Well, you upsize this jig a little bit to a 1/2 ounce. You put that Crush City Craw in there, and this is the picture that you get. I love swim jigs and regular contact jigs that look good with a swim bait on them and with a craw profile. This bait right here is a bite-sized package for fish, and it's going to stand up for you on the bottom. That Crush City Craw is going to be flapping up there. It's that TPE resistant water material, right, that's going to give you a lot of positive buoyancy and allow that bait to stand up and let it do its thing on the bottom. Plus, that skirt with the Flashaboo in it looks really good, and that rubber jig skirt material hits out and fans out nicely on the bottom. It's really a game changer in terms of that. Now, you can also fish these plain. One of the favorite ways that I've seen to fish this bait is literally to take that Crush City Craw and thread it onto the hook right there and then pull it all the way up. This bait was literally made for this jig head. You can see it fits on there perfectly. The underwater on this bait is incredible. I love a good craw bite on a jig head. A lot of guys don't fish that anymore, but it's a great way to get bit. As you can see, that bait glides through the water nicely. It's gonna stay on there for a ton of different fish. Plus, it's got that stand up. And the cool thing about these jig heads is you can upsize the weight and they're not going to be affected by the way that you're fishing it. So that smooth glide in there, that kick of those craw pinchers, really gonna be a benefit to you. Also, you can take a straight up TRD and fish this bait. So what you're gonna do is thread this TRD on there, and remember Dave designed these fishing saltwater using a ton of Z-Man stuff in the saltwater because it just stands up better to those fish with teeth out there in the salt. But let me tell you, this on a regular TRD looks super clean, right? And the cool thing about it, it's going to glide. You can swim and reel this and it's going to kick, but also it's going to stand up nicely on the fall and on the bottom, and you can upsize these jig heads and it's still going to be effective. A lot of times guys get upset when they can't cast the Ned rig super far or it's windy and it makes it hard to feel the bite. This jig head allows you to upsize that and get that bottom profile contact that you need. And look at this. You cannot pull a TRD off this thing. You can catch 200 bass on this and it's gonna be fine. Literally, it's not going anywhere. No movement whatsoever on that jig head and TRD. Great combo. Now, because I am the person that I am, I like to mix things up a ton. This time of year, we also get a great walleye bite around rocks. If you know anything about the gravel lizards, this time of year, they really are going to move up into those rock patches and areas. One of my favorite days in the wintertime is when we go walleye fishing on Maxinkuckee or up in the St. Joe River or on these different lakes. One of my favorite baits to throw is a jig head and a fluke on the bottom. And I like this plain jig head and fluke because it looks like a struggling minnow or bait fish that really doesn't know what's going on. And a lot of times you see them wandering around in the water. And if you take this bait and you hop it through those zones right here, we have a great example of that, right? You got this nice ebb and flow style jig head that's gonna stand it up on the bottom, paired up with a Z-Man darter in that 6-inch variety, and this bait is going to literally be what you need because that tail is going to stand up nicely on the bottom. Think of it as a supersized Ned rig. But those gravel lizards, they absolutely love to chew this. The pike also love to chew this. And remember, you can fish this back to the boat too. So you wind it through all those areas, you hop it around, put it on the bottom, inch it through that gravel, and then you can swim it back to the boat and it's going to get that nice rocking head action on it. It's going to give you a tail waggle on there as well. So just another way to be different and fish things differently. I usually do this with a super fluke and I put a toothpick in the tail, but using Z-Man to do this, you don't have to. And look at this. It is not coming off of that jig head. No matter what you do, it is literally stuck on there. Another great presentation, versatility in that jig head. Now, last one I'm going to give you here, do the same place that you fish that TRD, that other thing. If you want to upsize your bites, throw a 6 cents panorama on there. This is the 5-inch panorama on that jig head, and let me tell you, this thing looks clean on the bottom. It feathers and glides like you wouldn't believe, but it also looks like a dying shad on the bottom. And the cold water bass eat those dying shad like candy. They sit under those schools. Chuck this out there, let it sink, and then slow wind it back to the boat. Give it some hops and pops on the bottom. It's going to get ate. I don't care what you are. And the cool thing about it is the panorama are soft, but this bait is not moving at all on this jig head. It is stuck on there. I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's not showing any signs of loosening up. So you're going to get more bang for your buck on a panorama fishing it this way than if you wouldn't. So versatility is super important in your fishing game. I just gave you a whole bunch of different ways to be versatile with these jig heads. They stand up on the bottom. They swim really well on a swim bait. Everything that you could possibly want to have in a bait, and they're cheap, right? I'm going to hit all of these baits in the link in my description. Make sure to visit EbbnFlow. Help Dave out. He's a small-time manufacturer, just like we're a small-time YouTube channel. Help him out. Help him live the dream and get some quality material, quality baits to help you catch fish and up your game. Little differences matter a lot in this game, especially when we're fishing pressured water against a bunch of different guys. So if you guys like what's going on, give us a like, subscribe, support us in the channel, support Dave and EbbnFlow. Really looking forward to this partnership moving forward, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We will see you next time. We out.